Hello and welcome to the Second Row podcast. My name is Park O'Kelly, aka the Second Row, and I'm here to talk about all things Connacht and Irish rugby. And with me, as always, is Will Foley. Will, how are you getting on? How has life treated you in the last 7 days?
Life has been pretty good. I can't really complain about it at all. I do think we may need to update the titling of the podcast from being a Connacht and Irish Rugby podcast to a Connacht and Aoife Wafers Appreciation podcast.
Yes.
Um,
Do
just given the ridiculousness this weekend, but no, a good weekend. Nice weather in Dublin. Got to spend some time with some friends. Yeah, can't argue.
I was going between working and minding my sick child. So, it was
Yes,
I didn't get to enjoy the weather, but it was a very nice weekend in its own way.
yes. For other reasons that we will get into, it was very nice.
Oh, it was a very good weekend in rugby terms. For me anyway. So we'll kind of get into the cock match before Connacht played. It was kind of made all week. You've seen like Jack Carty's going, Dennis Buckley's going, but he was on a list of 11 players who were all released at the end of the year. That it's no different than a year. I hate those times of the year because I'm a big believer in once you've been a part of a club, you're always part of the club. I gotta go this. I started this thing when I was with the more part of the supporters club with the years ago. Once clan, always clan, with a
Mhm.
capital C, because that's very important that it's C. um, in that sense, but they're it's always a shame, and they do kind of just not dump those 11 names out at the very end, but they also kind of try and tell people if they know where they're going, what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's the way it's reported maybe makes it sound worse to a certain degree than it is, right? A lot of these players will know and will have known in advance, and it's not a it's you don't see this like Leinster and Munster don't often get reported in this way, or it doesn't get reported out by their comms teams in this way, or even Ulster in terms of like we're dropping 10 players, we're dropping 6 players, we're dropping 5 players. It's usually more of a trickle to not kind of panic anybody or cause any kind of particular questions. But Connacht is, we know have a little bit more of turnover, so
Well, like
nothing out of the ordinary
no, like
in that
four
sense. Yeah,
four were known, before
yeah,
this weekend, and two there's rumors of where two others are going. So
yeah.
it's the other five. It's just guys that I think they're just great pros and great to have around. Hawkshaw especially, I think he's going to be missed. I'm always
Mm,
ashamed when say like the likes of Usher McCormick and Connacht, a product of Connacht rugby, doesn't get to go on and keep being a pro. But it's stuff like that. You kind of
yeah,
just you feel bad. I feel bad for them. Like Timmy Lasisi had like effectively almost career-ending injury, and he was just coming back. Like I was seeing him just like learning how to run again, type of thing.
yeah,
And everyone on that list has had incredible moments for Connacht rugby. And as I always say, they're once clan, always clan. And it was one of those weekends where I even said to I put it up online. Like it's one of the rare weekends I really miss not being in Galway. Like saying
mm,
goodbye, especially to the likes of Dennis Buckley and Jack Carty, like proper servants of the club. And like even Jack replied to me, going, "Don't worry, like hopefully we'll have an away match in here that you can get to," type of thing. And he had no reason to. It was a nice little touch. Like, he's a classy guy, and I hope his retirement treats him well. I hope, and the rest of the lads' future treats them well as well.
definitely, definitely.
But there was a small thing of the match that happened before they got their send off. Um,
Yes,
I
uneventful.
of my I spent this week. I listened to a few podcasts, different. I read lots of different things, and a lot of people are saying this is going to be a tight match. And Munster won 2 games and on the bounce, and they're flying high. And da 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 da, lads. I was like, how are we watching the same rugby? Are we seeing the same teams? Because I just couldn't see Munster, especially when Tyke Byrne and Jack Howley were announced as injured, showing up, and they didn't. Like, and to be honest, at the first 20 minutes, I was like, Connacht looked a better drill team, like a better coach team than
Yeah.
Munster did. What are people watching in Munster that kind of led them to believe that when they came up against a team that had something to play for, that they were able to take that step up?
Yeah, I think like some of it is just histrionics, right? Like some of it is Munster typically beat Connacht, right? Connacht are the whipping boys of Irish rugby for a long time, and I think there's just an element of inbuilt bias that even if Connacht are flying high, well, you can get one over on them and stuff like that, right? Which is unfair and not looking at the form of the two teams, as you say, what was on the line for the two teams. I think even taking out that element of like what Connacht are playing for, what Munster might be playing for in terms of table position, stuff like that. I think just purely form, right? Like if you were ignoring the form that Connacht have had, particularly at home, but even in the last 7, 8 games, and the form that Munster have had in the last 7 or 8 games, like they are quite night and day in terms of the both the results. Like Connacht have a better win record in the URC in this time period,
Yeah.
and Munster have been struggling, and all season Munster have been struggling, bar maybe the first couple of games. If they're missing their heavy hitters, as we've said multiple times, if Byrne, Crowley, Casey are not on the pitch, Munster are a shadow of themselves. And I think when we talked about it last week, and certainly when we were talking in kind of friend groups and stuff like that during the week, my view was like, I think Connacht will win this game. I think it is harder for them to win it. It's definitely hard to get the 5 points if it's a fully stacked Munster team, i.e., Byrne, Crowley, and the others. When Byrne and Crowley were confirmed to not be playing, I was like, oh, well, Connacht will win this game. Now it's a question of, do they get the bonus point and do Munster manage to scramble something out of it? But I was like, at that point, I was like, no, Connacht will now win this game. That's not a question for me. They will have to play incredibly below form to lose this game, and that kind of panned out. Like I think I don't know whether all of the um nonsense around the coaching stuff in Munster in the last week distracted them or caused, like as you say, in terms of the better drilled team. Like obviously Macmillan came out and made, he's a very frank speaker anyway. Like we know that about him in terms of his style. About if
He effectively said back me or sack me,
yeah, yeah,
which
but
was
like
wild in an Irish context, It
yeah,
was
you rarely hear it from a manager, and like I'm sure he is like regardless of anybody's individual feelings about Randall, he obviously likes Randall and has a personal relationship with him, and he's entitled to have his own opinions about the guy. I don't
yeah.
know either of them personally, but he very publicly went to bat and was like, "Trust me, this is the guy." And then, due to backlash, Munster went, "Nah, bye bye, we're not doing it." And so, like, he understandably he's like, "Well, does that mean you don't trust me? Like, does that mean I don't have the backing of you as well?" And all that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I just wonder what the week was like in the lead up here, because you're right, to keep it focused on the match. Poor from Munster in that first half in particular. Like Connacht were all over them in that first half.
Yeah, I'll talk about my months. I was watching this and I was there going, oh, there's JJ Hanrahan, a person who knows how to play in Galway with the wind at your back.
Mm-hmm.
How Munster didn't kick that ball long repeatedly in that first half was when they had the ball, the rare times they got their hands on the ball was mental, because they went for up and unders. They kicked to compete. You're kind of going, that makes no sense with that type of wind. You got to almost, there was no one on that pitch who was kind of going, oh, wait, these are the conditions we're in.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And let's play to them, which was mental. But at the same time, Connacht came out fast. They played super fast. And what Munster have been doing that's got them to defend better against Ulster, say Benton last week, they're very good at slowing down the ruck, legally, illegally, just slowing down opposition ball. But what Connacht were very smart at, especially in the opening 20 minutes, is getting really good support to every ruck. So even if, say, I think Tom Ahern had a decent turnover attempt near, but was a penalty to Connacht that get kicked to the corner, even if Munster were able to get hands in, it's the player, the initial attacker not rolling out of the way was always going to get pinned. And that's what Connacht were doing very well in those early stages, just creating those penalty opportunities, creating that pressure, which led to compound penalties. Like, I know Connacht gave away more penalties in this match, but I would say they are more attacking penalties than defensive penalties, if that makes sense. Or even
Yeah, it wasn't from pressure. It wasn't from being under pressure.
Apart from the warning Joyce got, where he was offside twice in the second half, Whereas at one point before one of the tries, there was 5 different advantages given away by Munster.
Yeah.
On and maybe 3 other advantages and another set. So in 2 phases of play, Munster technically given away 8 penalties, if not more. They weren't able to live with what Connacht were doing in attack in those, especially in the early in the opening time. And that try by Murphy just came from that. Like Munster's defense were at 6s and 7s, and I I don't this was the easiest line break of the game that I saw. The second
Yeah.
one was in the second half from Harry West and Bundyaki. That little pod play, which should never have happened, by the way. Like that's just the worst time. Anyhow, but so Connacht's attacks had them at 6s and 7s at stages, and I think Munster are lucky that the score was what it was at halftime. To be honest, I think that could have nearly got away from them. For me, it's Connacht's ability to score, which was a really big thing early on in the season. Remember, like there was a time where if Connacht got the 5 meters out, they were scoring a try.
Yeah.
But this time, like against Munster, twice they're getting held up. You're kind of going, first time carrying high, you kind of go, okay, fine. Second time, you have to learn that lesson. And
yeah,
that annoyed me. And it would have annoyed me if we hadn't got the bonus point. It would have really annoyed me if we hadn't got the bonus point.
Yeah, and like I think again against a better drilled Munster team or a better performing Munster team or just a better team, which like Connacht will come up with hopefully in the remainder of the season, like you won't get that many opportunities, right? You don't like essentially Munster Connacht got over the line 6 times in this game, only 4 of them counted because they got held up twice, and those, as you say, those 2 holdups were quite quick in succession, and it's like you gotta learn that lesson fast, and hopefully they will take the lesson out of this to be like just hold your heads, don't like find the better position. Just because you can get over the line doesn't mean you should get over the line in this moment.
Yeah.
There's like it's good that it didn't cost them. It did, like they didn't pay the price for it, thankfully, but it will be a good lesson that they'll take out of the game.
And it's stuff that they were doing earlier on the season, even earlier on this win run, since Christmas. So I just think it's a bit of kind of a reload in that thinking of like, we're here, let's not lose their heads. I think that's a bit of the Montpellier game and the Lions match coming back to haunt them of not getting over the line. And that's I think
it might be. It's a bit of the occasion as well, right? Like they were kind of relatively early in the game. The crowd was like really into it,
and they're pre the red card. They're pre the yellow card
pre the red
as well.
card. Yeah, so kind of around, like in that opening 20-ish minutes or so, right? So,
what did you think of that card? I was before.
I mean, it's a card. Like it's a red card. Like you can't do that. Like and I suppose what I'm a little bit concerned about is that like the 2 Irish teams that got done for really bad crock rolls this weekend, right? It happened in the Ulster game as well with Henderson. Henderson's one was arguably worse, like in terms of it looked worse. But crock roll is crock roll. I don't like it creeping back in. I felt we hadn't seen them too much as of late, and it's disappointing to see them back.
But what bugged me is because I was watching TG and they were like, there was nothing in it. And I know but Premier Pro or the comments were like going, what was this for? It's not for the crock roll. Actually, even Henderson's wasn't for the crock roll itself. The penalty was
for the leg.
Dropping on the leg. Like they're all kind of going, that wasn't a crock roll. Like, no, he dropped his weight on the leg. That's the penalty.
Yeah. It's forcing the weight leg. Yeah. So I this is actually a thing I could speak to with great experience from my days in judo, right? So a crock roll is a relatively easy way of flipping someone, right? Like it's pulling their weight off using your own body weight. You basically put your chest on top of their chest via their back or whatever, and then you turn. Ideally, how you would normally do a crock roll in a wrestling context is you would underhook. So you would hook your arm, under their shoulder, and lift it that way and twist them like you would a clock, and they would twist and roll. But obviously in rugby, that's hard to get the arm under because usually they're bound over somebody.
Yeah.
So what they do is the extremely dangerous thing to do, which is
wrap
the other way you do that is you put the weight on the leg, the supporting leg, to force that to bend in, and by applying your body weight to it, therefore causing the body to twist. And once the body twists, you can do the full roll. The challenge in rugby with all of these things are innocuous in themselves. Even in a wrestling context, applying weight to a leg can be dangerous, but usually it's safe enough, and there's ways of doing it safely to do a crock roll type move. But the danger here is you typically have at least one other body under the person you are trying to roll. And what that means is they're not able to twist their upper body or their leg. So what ends up happening is the ligament takes the whole weight and is the thing that has to bend. And we've seen career-ending injuries from this move.
Yeah. And that's why they're being taken out of the game, and especially when you drop the weight. So a penalty is your standard croc roll. You know, like when you drop the weight, like Henderson did, and Barron did. Yeah, it was Barron.
It was Barron. Yeah. So if people are like unclear what it is, that's what it is. It's just dropping your full body weight on somebody's supporting leg who's in a ruck. That's what you're doing. You're it doesn't matter how you're holding up, but it's essentially just like fully dropping your body weight, not supporting your own body weight in any way, onto their leg. That's what the red card is for here. And the 20-minute red.
I saw that live. I was in a WhatsApp group and I went, DTM's in trouble. That weight got dropped in his leg. You know, I saw it from the wide, like, you know, that weight got dropped on his leg and you knew he was in trouble straight away. He played on for like 60 seconds. You know, he tried to play. I was like, there was no point. He was banjoed. And
hopefully it's nothing too serious.
I really do for him because like he was playing well, and Owen the Butler, like, he comes on. I love any time when Owen the Butler comes on for Connacht. And if you see Owen the Butler on the 23, watch TG Carr. Get subtitles. Get someone to explain to you what's being said, because watching lads from the West talk about a fella from Carrow in Irish who also speaks Irish playing rugby, it's just immense. They're like, oh, there's the Carrow lad, he's almighty. You know, like it's the only other time apart from the end of this game where rugby feels like GA. You know, it's so funny. But
look, it's a red all day. I don't like. There's no argument with it for me. It's a 20-minute red. It's like arguably a straight red. I know straight reds now are for like incredibly egregious things.
You've got to punch someone effectively.
You got to basically punch someone or headbutt somebody for it to be a straight red. But it's definitely it's absolutely a yellow, and it is definitely a 20-minute red in my view. And correct call in both games. Both players will hopefully be cited for it, like they should be. It's dangerous. Don't want to see it in the game. Hopefully both players that were on the receiving ends of it are not badly injured. And
for the next 5-10 minutes, and like it led to a point, happened the second time more, Connacht could always punch a hole at will. There was a time where they could really punch a hole at will. And even though like Munster were winning penalties and stuff, what shocked me is how ill-prepared Munster seemed to be for this scenario. They tried to bring on their sub hooker, then realized, oh wait, that's a permanent sub, and took him away again. Then realized, oh, we're not winning our lineouts. And I think Munster were afraid of the lineout going into this game because they started doing tricks lineouts with Barron on the pitch. They weren't chucking in. They were worried about the Connacht defensive lineout from the off, and they're right to be, because Connacht like stole quite a few in the air and made mess of a lot of ball. So it was compounding a bad situation by not putting on a sub hooker and just do the sub, like get someone on, and like that's the end of the day. That's what's gonna happen.
They went about 10 minutes of the 20 without the sub hooker on.
And
I think there were like 3 lineouts or 4 lineouts in that time. And like it was an odd choice, like to make.
I think someone said the second the red came in, the sub came on. You know, like we knew he wasn't coming back on, so we got to get someone on for longer, you know. And I get that you're like hedging your bets, but like if it's a yellow, you can play with one of your hookers in the back row for a bit. Just, you know, if you have the wind and you're going to be kicking more, you've got to have a hooker who can do work for you. But Connacht just attacked really well, put pressure on. I don't know. It was just such a good game. I could go through player by player. Billy Bowen, does he realize he's a prop, right? He does realize he's a prop. Like, I
would assume so by the number of the jersey when he picks it up. But
is he sure it's not a number? He thinks there's a number 1 there with like line breaks and offloads. You know, it's like he had such a good game, ball in hand, scrummed really well as well. On top of that, it's Sam Elo once again. Just
great player.
Great player. My man crush on him is growing more and more.
It's reasonable.
Murphy back to his best. He got his try, but like the tempo of the game was really, really good.
I wouldn't say that try was like vintage, like Irish scrum half, like Conor Murray, just like snipe try. I love to see it. Love it every time. It was great.
If he didn't score that try with the absolute hole that was left there, I would have been shocked.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
I think I don't know who the pillar was, but I want to pick on Alatoa, like in general, because
Probably,
he
yeah.
felt
It's a
he
safe
felt like
assumption.
such an empty jersey at times.
It's Alalato is an interesting. Do you know what? Like, there's probably maybe we could talk about it in the season wrap up, right? I think there's a really interesting argument around club culture and club organization studied through Snyman and Alalato. Uh, in terms of two players who have both played for Leinster and Munster, but both have swapped in the opposite direction. And with varying results,
I would
right?
say
You know, like
Munster did got nothing from Simon. Like no, they might as
yeah,
well not have had him, you know.
exactly, yeah. The injury profile was obviously like criminal, and he was very well liked down there and all that kind of stuff, and they all speak very highly of him, and he seemed to enjoy his time there. And it was again, it wasn't his decision, so to speak, to go. He would have like he would have liked to stayed and all those kind of things. Just it was between him and Klein, and there was two NIQs in the one spot, all that sort of stuff. But I think Al Alato is a better example. Like Al Alato at Leinster, not our best player, like not even our best in IQ by any stretch of imagination, but a good player, a reliable player, like could deliver for us, did deliver for us in many situations. Arguably cost us a couple of games, like in terms of moments, or was like unfortunate in a couple of positions. The final in Dublin, the Champions Cup final in Dublin, obviously, arguably harsh, but like still, he's the one who got pinged.
Yeah.
But like he is a shadow of what he was at Leinster at Munster this year. Like if you were one to believe in psyops, is he still on the Leinster payroll? And they're just like, go down and be shite. Just be shite.
It was just he's just really not he's not playing well, and it
No.
it compounds a problem that Munster have with Jaeger being injured and the Salanoa being injured as well. You know, it's this whole compound situation going on of like, oh, what is going on down there? And it made Munster's life even harder. So, and you come into the second half, there's a scuffle down the tunnel, so Munster get a penalty. If Munster don't get that penalty, I don't see them like spending the next 25 minutes attacking. Like genuinely, you know, I think it was a soft out for Munster, a soft start to the half. You know, they get over the line with the knock on, with knocked on try, but one could say that was unlucky to get knocked on or good defensive play to get Armin. You know, it's like this is what happens. This is the fight you're talking about, and you know that this was the constant thing that was going on. Every scrap Connacht were really fighting for. Keane Pendergast will come to after the try, but like he had a superb game, but he led through actions all the time. Once again, he's just stepped up.
Yeah.
And I think having a back row of him, Hurlington, Janssen lets him do such great crappy work that they can like, you carry ball and you do all those things. I'm going to do those unseen hero moments like turnovers and being the first or breakdown, getting up in the air, you know, just I think there's a nice balance to that back row with them three. And then you have
properly
Boyle
dangerous
to come
back
on.
row, like properly dangerous back row.
And then you have Boyle to come into that for the rest of the season and others. It's a nice mix. I do like the three of them. They dovetail really well with each other as a trio. But Connacht had to defend for 20 minutes, I think, you know, effectively 25 even, you know.
Yeah.
And really until, you know, the 25th, 3rd to 5th minute when they gave away a few penalties on the line, they looked relatively comfortable. For me, even off Munster's kind of set plays off scrums, it was really interesting to me, especially the midfield ones, which are technically the hardest ones to defend against. And Leinster kind of shoot up and make real big reads and like stop you really early. Where Connacht were like, okay, we're going to come up, watch Munster do their set play, goes, okay, now we're going to drift. You've done what you're going to do. Now we're man on again. You know, they were smart in how they defended those. They just let Munster play in front of them, then made their moment.
Yes,
it conserves energy. You're not trying to sprint up as a block and put huge amount of pressure on. It almost gave Munster too much time in a sense. Like, okay, you do what you're doing. Cool, we've sussed it now. We're going to now come for the ball. And Bundy was making some really good tackles, really good reads. Shane Jennings once again, he's everywhere. Like I think himself and Bolton suit what Lancaster want to do, especially in a back three. They're his type of guys. I think personally. But once that try went in, did it kind of feel to you that Connacht went, oh wait, we need to score a fourth try? Like,
yes, it felt like they were, and I think the crowd certainly waked up at that point as well, or woke up at that point, I should say. There was definitely like, oh right, yeah, we are winning, but we have not gotten everything we can get out of this game. Let's go and do that then. We forgot about that. Let's go do that.
Yeah. And they literally, I'll go back to game Prendergast, a loose ball, he dives on it. And from that point, he gets that ball back. The next 60 seconds, the 2 minutes looked inevitable. It just looked like Connacht were going to score.
They weren't going to get held out, plain and simple.
And Sean Jansen wasn't going to get stopped again from 5 meters out. Like he's having some season. I think he's nearly joint top. He's nearly joint top try scorer in the league. He's having
an unbelievable player, unbelievable season.
And like himself and James Hurley-Langton both being Irish qualified. Langton next year, he's 5 years in Ireland now. I think that's another reason why they made sure to get him staying in the country, because a player that you just kind of want on the books.
100%
for Ireland.
Amazing that a player of the name Seamus Hurley-Langton, not Irish qualified,
fourth generation. Like we're at a point where there's going to be great grandchildren who you assume who have Irish backgrounds who just won't be able to be Irish qualified. We need to repopulate the world again, it seems. No, it was. I actually do think it was an all court impressive display by Connacht. I cannot.
Yeah.
Even the touch of Jack Carty being able to kick the ball out at the end, like his final, like marking his final moment on the pitch, it was just that was a touch of class. The fact he was able to do that, but incredible game. It was needed. Like at the end of the day, that was needed. There's it's all well and good saying we Connacht beat Munster and they beat them well, which I believe they're going to do from last week. I don't care about the teams. I felt those Connacht needed it more than Munster did, and Munster have the safety net of the Lions match coming up, and it to a degree, a safety net is a very loose term for what I'd call Lions at the moment. So with that, I think Connacht's attitude was right. Their game plan was right. I think I said earlier on they were prepped. They seemed prepped better. They knew what they had a plan, and it looked like they had a plan. Whereas Munster looked very headless. And when you look to say like Casey for leadership, especially in those times, Jack O'Donoghue when he came on brought a bit on. There was just moments there that looked headless across the 23 for Munster.
Yeah, and I think like Millen said it in the post match stuff, that he had challenged the guys to make sure that their motivation wasn't stronger than Connacht's, or was stronger than Connacht's, right? That the Munster players' motivation was stronger than Connacht's, but that it wasn't. That it would that he was admitting to the fact that like Connacht's motivation was stronger, and that in particular you'd see that in the collisions in particular.
Yeah,
and I think whatever way you want to break it down in terms of the reasons why, did Munster underestimate Connacht? Did they not prep for them right? I don't think that's the case. I think not having I think they have a leadership problem at the moment in Munster when they don't have Byrne and Crowley in particular. And I would even limit that to Byrne in particular, right? I think when Byrne is not around, he is a totemic player in any team he's in. Like Leinster or Ireland are a different team as well when Byrne is there, in my view.
The mask has slipped.
I know. Leinster man, Tyg Byrne. But that's not good enough, right? Some of our listeners who are Munster supporters and our friends of ours and who have been on this podcast will slag and joke back and forth about when we kind of make jokes about the likes of a Coombs or the likes of a Tom Ahern or whoever not standing up, and they're saying they are. I was like these are the games where you need those players to stand up, right? You need the likes of Tom Ahern to be doing what Cian Prendergast is doing, or doing what Sean Jansen is doing in like, and I'm not talking about leader in the dressing room and saying the right words. I'm like on the pitch, driving the standard, doing what Nick Timoney is doing in Ulster, like doing those things of like, I am an international level player and I will drive the standard for everybody else and I will show them the level they are meant to operate at and I will force them to join me there.
Yeah.
And like I will drag us kicking and screaming into this game. And Munster at the moment don't have enough of that, right? And like, I'm sure they've had a lot of defeats. They, like they've like, it feels like every season now we are talking about something being against Munster one way. Last season it was the injury profile.
Yeah.
It's been coaches like genuinely, and I don't mean this to be to sound glib or it probably sounds like it does feel like since Axel passed away, Munster have felt like a cursed team. Not in the sense that like they're actually cursed, but as in like there's always something that is like driving. Apologies, you might hear a little bit thing. Like
it's going to be loud.
I know.
My smoke alarm is telling me that my smoking. But sorry, there's I think for the last number of years there's been an excuse. An excuse for Munster of like why they're poor.
I think that was it. I was going to say I wouldn't say the curse. I think Munster have looked outwards even internally for reasons why things aren't going wrong. Like it can't be the coaching or it can't be the player pool. It just has to be the injury profile. It just has to be something we can't control. That to me feels like a failure of organization or failure of self-reflection. Because if you don't start with what you can control, and if you're always just looking out and going, even Coombs going, oh, this last year it was this, and this year you're always talking about, like, lads, it's got to be internal first. Even it doesn't seem to be inside first. Whereas, let's take Connacht from the beginning of the year, even over the last couple of years. It's everyone. It's felt like we are fixing things on the inside out. We weren't blaming. Like Andy, friend of mine, said we like Marks and Spencer's and Aldi and all that type of stuff. Back in the day. But he still went, yeah, but our solution's going to be internal. We're going to do the best out of it. Our solutions, we start with the playing pool. We start with our actions. And Stuart Lancaster is the right coach for that in Connacht, where he's like, yeah, all I've got to do is make our players better. And then the things that are our problems aren't our problems anymore because our playing pool is better, and that's how he runs. And outside coaches, I think for Munster's problem, for a few different coaches, like say Rob Penny in the past, Johan van Graan, I won't say Raz Erasmus, but even Macmillan now. If you as a coach, I don't think Rob Penny was given a fair shout. In all fairness, I don't think the players want to play the style of rugby that he was bringing. But if you as a coach come into the Irish system and you fundamentally don't make your players 10% better, you're not going anywhere. Johan van Graan has shown what he can do with a checkbook in Bath. His tactics are more money. It's not to say that the players around him haven't improved, but he's also gone out and goes like, I need a better second row. I'm going to get a better second row.
I will solve my problem is I will buy it.
Whereas in the Irish system, you are one, if you want to get it from the outside, you're in a closed system. Like you have one of four teams and all you can do is match the offer the other one's giving them. So you've got to be selling something more than money, firstly. And secondly, if you can't then go, if you don't have the tools, like, let's take, for example, under the fact that a Dogbo and Tom Ahern haven't come through as much as people have expected under multiple coaches now. Like there's a point where it's not all on them. And, how comes coaches can't improve these guys? Or why can't these guys get the proper adequate coaching to improve? And it's both sides. Like I'm not saying it's one or the other. I'm not blaming either. I'm not blaming the two players. I just named them as examples. One could say Brian Gleeson, someone who has abundance of talent. If he doesn't push on to be the next Irish number 8, who, and properly start competing with Kane Dars, is that a failure of coaching and the setup in Munster?
And development of a player and development of a resource and stuff like that. Yeah, I think like to lay it at the coaching kind of piece in that sense, and I don't, not even the head coach, but like the system of coaching in the club, right? Like if I take it in that sense, like when Lancaster got announced for Connacht, there wasn't a person I spoke to, regardless of the province they supported, that were not excited about that.
Yeah.
Right. Because they looked at Stuart Lancaster, an amazing coach, a coach that did amazing things at Leinster. People will argue about his record in terms of what he won. But what he did was he took a team that was not winning tons, like won a lot under Schmidt, but like the system had started to break down. They had not won much since 2013 when he came in, and like made them, say what you want, the best team in Europe, I would argue. Yeah. And like made them an exciting team to watch and made the players better. Like players who, like, when he, like, Gibson Park was not the player he is today when Lancaster arrived, right? James Lowe was not the player he is today when Lancaster arrived. And most of the work that they have done developmentally, while guided by Ireland to a certain degree and Andy Farrell, was done in Leinster, was done in the province in that sense. And like him coming to Connacht, I'm like, this is amazing for Connacht. He is a coach who is, like, most of his career prior to senior coaching was developmental. Like it's similar to what with Richie Murphy in Ulster, right?
And you can see the difference.
Developmental coach, and you can see the difference. It's an interesting like view on Irish rugby and senior coaches and like their position and like their role in what they can achieve and what they can't achieve, and like in the Irish system, right? Like should we, like, I have always had this thing about, and like, this is not to attack individuals or be a thing about bashing Munster specifically, right? Is like Ron O'Gara to me is always the interesting example where people almost like fait accompli, or like, well, he's like, he clearly wants a head coaching job in a country, right? That's clearly his next step in his career, and that's what he wants. I'm sure he wants that in Ireland. Like, why wouldn't he? I'm sure there's a part of him that would love to do that in Ireland. He would do it in England. He would do it elsewhere. But I don't think he is suited to Ireland, because I have not seen him as a head coach do what needs to be done in an Irish context, in a like you say, in a kind of closed system with limited resources.
I know what you mean. I don't think he would suit the provincial setup. I think he is an international coach, though, who can pick the best players from his pool.
Sure.
Like, so yeah, it's a different thing. So I think I actually do think Roger would suit international coaching quite well.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Better than like being the head coach of Munster or being the head coach at Leinster or something like that. Yeah.
And that's why, because it's that I can pick, those guys are the best at this, these guys are the best at that, and then everything else is on me, you know? And I think in France, you can see him do it. He's rebuilding a team now. You know, he's like, I had this team I put together here. They're now on the way down, way up. I have 2 more years. Yeah. I'll build this team up again. And you can say that, but that is very much club building from the, I need guys at this pay scale. I'm not going to develop them, so get them from here. You know, and that's the French system as well. You know, the constraints of the French system, and that's why I actually prefer coaches to come from the French system to a degree, because they understand that kind of playing smart.
There's a horse trading to it, and a kind of limitations or restrictions within the system versus a New Zealand or South African coach. So I understand.
I understand what you mean. Like, let's go. If we bring it back to the game, long way around, you know, like fundamentally, Connacht looked a better coach team. I think they
were a better team across the board. Like in general, they played better. They performed better on the day. They looked better prepared for the game in general. Generally, they looked fitter. I thought, like, you know, like their energy levels come to the end of the game were better from that point of view. Bar penalty count, that's the only area you can call out, I think, in this game. And as we said, most of the penalty count came from a very aggressive attacking style by Connacht. So like they were pushing the edge, and like that's going to happen.
And there's far too many times where, say, I think I counted Bundy twice, get turned over for everything, because Munster blitzed some of the outside and no one copped it but Bundy. So he ended up running down a dead end and got turned over.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a few times where players made a break and were like, oh crap, I've made the break. And there was no support at the next breakdown and they got turned over. And there was a few stages in the first half when Connacht lost their, you know, they lost a bit of energy and they were like taking static ball in.
Yeah.
I can count 6, if not 7 turnovers on the deck. So off a penalty count of 14, half for that, you know, if not more. And one of those was for a scrap in the tunnel. or like that little set of handbags at halftime. So Connacht do need to get their kicking game sorted if they have that type of wind again, and they need to get that support just being a bit quicker in tune for what's going on and reacting that bit quicker for line breaks and those good things are like, oh, the pictures change, let's just truck it up and be there. And when those things went in against us, a Munster team that attacked the breakdown, that's what they do. They do it very well, and Connacht didn't resource long enough. And I do think when you have that much attacking ball, you're going against a team like Munster, you're going to give up turnovers on the deck. So it's an odd one. It's kind of, there are two glaring issues. Not glaring. There are two issues that I've spotted from the outside looking in. I'd say Connacht have another 5 of like not finishing those tries, opportunities left to begging. That the 26-7 flatters Munster. And that's, like, in my opinion, it completely flatters Munster.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm here kind of being
I'd be worried if I was Munster about making certainly top 8, right? Like, I think I do genuinely think they're at risk. Like, Lions might, like, it's in Thomond, let's see, right? From that perspective. But like, Cardiff have Stormers. Stormers will have been buoyed by like the Friday night game and stuff like that. They could find themselves in the 8th position slot, definitely.
And that's a dangerous spot
that's
to be
a dangerous spot to be in, right? That's a really dangerous spot to be in. So, like, I would be very nervous about Munster's season at this stage. I'd be a lot more nervous, even though they're in their 6th. I'm more nervous about their season than I am Connacht's.
Yeah, like, but Connacht are just trending up, and that's at the end of the day, and they've been trending up since Christmas. And I think people made a lot of the Montpellier loss. They made a lot of the Lions loss. They made less of the Lions loss, in all fairness, because they beat the Stormers the week before. But the Lions loss seemed to be the press like, oh, that's it, Connacht are done. They've lost the game. Like, no,
ended their season. Blah blah blah.
We lost a tight game by a team that just mauled the arse out of us, quite literally. And if we converted 4 of the 5, 4 of the 7 or 8 5-meter line stands we had, we would have won the game. It's kind of like we created opportunities. There was that game with a squad that was weaker than the one that played against Munster.
Yeah.
Like there was no context to that loss. Like, there was no context to Munster's last 2 wins.
Being one of the more favored teams, like, and stuff like that in this game.
Whereas the last time Munster had a competitive game with something on the line was Exeter. And they lost quite easily, if you don't mind me saying. It was and you could say they didn't take that game seriously. And, like, if they didn't take that game seriously as an organization, that says something else, but no, I was such a happy camper on Saturday evening. Great win, great vibes from them. Billy Bowen swearing on TG Carr, Colin Meaney being absolutely steamed on TG Carr, giving an interview at halftime for whatever reason, like it. And then the GAA roll on at the kids, and the Stewards' defense being equally as good as Munster's at times. Just letting those kids fly through was brilliant. It was great to see. It felt special, and I'm not annoyed. Like, it'd be nice. It would have been lovely to have been there, but c'est la vie, yourself.
Yeah, that's you were minding your newborn daughter. How terrible of a situation to be in, versus last year, in that sense. But the and I think, like, we'll do our reflections come the end of the season and stuff like that. But we started this season, or I certainly started this season talking about Connacht and moral victories, and like, playing well but not getting the result. Like, we're now at a point where Munster or Connacht are playing well, getting the results, and getting convincing results, right? And that is massive progress in the course of a season. And one more game to go to try and get what I think Connacht deserve out of this season, which is a playoff place and certainly European rugby next year, like Champions Cup rugby next year.
Yeah, it's all about next week, and I think my blood pressure will be able to take next Friday, given that Ulster, Cardiff, and Connacht all kick off at the same time.
Yeah,
it's going to be mental. Do not talk to me for the evening.
It's going to be, yeah. I feel if you do need to, if your darling wife is listening, if you do need to send your husband out of the house, he is more than welcome to come here and watch the games on Friday night. If he is completely insufferable.
No, but that's all about next week, and we kind of get into what we think will happen in those at the end of the podcast. So we shall move on.
Yes, but before we move on, we will do our bit of Irish for the week. So again, for listeners, this is where I, who do not speak fluent Irish, ask Porrick to explain a word to me or a phrase to me that may be good in the context of a rugby game in Irish. So this week I went with progress because of Connacht's progress and kind of what's been shown here. And we'll probably talk progress in some of the other games as well. So what have we got in terms of progress?
Well, it's kind of weird because you're kind of talking like progress in of itself is dull keen, like Tom was, and that is just straight up for the word. Progress is dull keen, but I think you mean it in the sense of like things are going well. They're like in general things are going well, and tá rudí ag dul go ma agus tá Connacht dine dull keen gach seachtain like felsú gach seachtain agus ag creative sin rudtá sé dine níos mú agus níos mú gach seachtain. Connacht are getting on well. They are progressing week in week. They are believing in what they're doing week in week. And for me, it's all about making sure they keep that level going up and up and up and up and up and improving, even if it's just for one more game. And if results go against us, I think that still finish on a high. But when you are improving like this, because they're taught to like Gimmert's Chamag Sakat, like Dinov, Tasha Dinov and Rud, a Cassidy and the Tauchi and a Lava Hain. And that's with cost performances, their future is in their own hands. They've brought their future into their own hands, and that's kind of what they've done with these performances. Where even if things go against them, like no, we did everything we could do. It's they kind of brought that back from what was an awful pre-Christmas time, and that's where we're at. And yes, things are going well. And I just hope they keep going well for the rest of the season.
Definitely. Speaking of taking the things into their own hands and performing well, but maybe not taking things fully into our hands, we will move to. We're going to go in reverse order this year. We're going this week, so we're going to Leinster Lions next.
Yeah, I just thought we should go for this match first because this impacts Munster next week, and just because we got Munster now, I think this is an interesting match for me because there are elements of what Lions do that are really going to pressure Munster. I think and at the same time, Leinster won this 31-7, but somehow could have won 50 points to nil, but also could have lost it. It's so weird.
It's an unusual game, right? Because I would argue 31-7 through a certain lens, and certainly if you're looking at the timeline of the game, sort of flatters, right? Like it was 14-7 at halftime. And
Leinster should have at least scored 2 more tries in that first half, but just accuracy let them down, sloppiness.
And then Lions were dominant at the start of the second half for the kind of next 20 minutes or so in terms of just like not getting scores out of it, but just like Leinster not getting the ball and not doing anything. And then Leinster running 3 tries in 10 minutes at the end of the game and like just blitz them out of it in the final 10 minutes of the game. So it's a strange game to analyze in that sense. I think it's an important win from a Leinster point of view, like getting the 5 points at home for this group of players as well. I think in particular, right? Like this is essentially a lot of like the kind of second string players for Leinster here, the guys who may not be in the Champions Cup final and maybe in the playoffs if we get far in the playoffs of the URC and stuff. So and I'm particularly basing this on like the Benetton game a couple of weeks ago, and even like Cardiff, back during the Six Nations and stuff like that. This kind of like, for lack of a better term, kind of midweek team element to it. Just getting a strong result and getting a good win, even if it's a sloppy win. Like it's a chopped and changed team from last week and the week before. So like, again, Leinster's problem around cohesion and around consistency is here, as you say, very sloppy from Leinster at times in that first half, like just inaccuracy.
I always
not troubled as well.
I always call that inaccuracy, and you talk about cohesion there. What I mean by that is if you always see that standard 3-pot, off those forwards, and they always throw that ball out the back door, to a back or to someone in that. How many times do those passes end on the floor? And that's where that's quite a key place where you can see that lack of cohesion. in, you know, very, very, very simply. And like in terms of lack of accuracy, I don't think I've seen Luke McGrath knock the ball on the base of rucks as much as I have in
Yeah,
that 80. Is
very unlike him. Yeah, because he's usually like maybe his passing isn't the strongest of a nine in general, right? Like, but he is usually quite sure with ball in hand. Like his
yeah.
passing is slow, I would say, not like that he's inaccurate with his passes, but he's very sure with ball in hand. Typically, he plays nearly more like a back row at times.
I think a part of that is Lions putting pressure on every breakdown. Yeah,
Yeah.
and but at the same time, I do feel that Leinster just weren't clicking, and that was like that's quite canary in the coal mine. You know, your nine being loose like that in that area. But I think what got Leinster through this game were the big performances in the first half from Clarkson. For me, Ione stood out. Yeah, I think he's just come into his own the last couple of weeks.
I think
And
he's found
Osborne
his
as well.
place in the team. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I like and like at the right time, hopefully, right? Like, you know, that's the thing here. But I think finally he has found a place, like his role, I think, in the wider team, but also his like place on the pitch in this Irish setup, or the coaches and him have figured it out in terms of like where he is able to add real value. And like the last two games in particular, you can see it in terms of maybe three actually, probably to be fair to him. You can see the quality player that he is, and like Leinster now finally using him in the right way and getting proper value out of him. So it's great, and this is the time of the season to be getting that out of him.
Yeah, no, I think he came over to play knockout rugby, and he's like, oh, I better be good for knockout rugby. You know, like he's just kind of going, oh, I want to play rugby in April and May and June, and that's kind of all he's planning for. And if that is what Munster have got out of him, brilliant. I think I think it's from a Leinster end of season point of view. I don't think Sam's done himself any favors in this game. I don't think he had a bad game. I just don't think he had a good game, if that makes sense. And I think he
was okay. Yeah,
he was
okay.
fine.
Again, he wasn't the petit general at the end of the day. He wasn't running the show and stuff like that. And this was the opportunity for him to run the show.
Yeah, and it's that the whole thing that we've talked about, kind of in that Coombs sense, when if he's under pressure for this and the other, he needs to step up and do something about it. He didn't. Like at the end of the day, that's it. He played a game where he played 10, and that was it. You know, he did some good things, he did some bad things. He did a very 5.5 to 6 out of 10 job. And I think that shows in Leinster not scoring for 50 minutes, you know, for a lot of this.
It's very reminiscent for me of Harry Byrne about 3 or 4 years ago, right? As well, right? As when he was at a similar age to Sam is now, of, you know, for those who are not aware, in any Leinster circuit you were in clubs and stuff like that, Harry Byrne was the next coming of whoever, right? Like he was the anointed one. He, like, sure, Ross is good, but wait till you see his brother kind of conversation, and like all of this potential, all of this talk, all of this promise. And like it never really materialized for one reason or another. And it was sort of always this kind of like talk of potential and never happened. And we never really saw it, even in his early appearances for Leinster. We are now starting to see that. We are starting to see that the quality of player that he can be kick in a little bit. And that's, to me, a little bit what it felt like with Sam this week, of like, we all know Sam has got big potential. We've seen moments of that big potential when he's in teams that give him the freedom and he doesn't have to be that leader yet. I think that's where he has shown that opportunity, when he has ample time on the ball and he has incredibly experienced world-class players around him who give him the opportunity to be the wunderkind that kind of like he has been purported to be in that sense. But that is not high intensity rugby and like a 10's role a lot of the time. And like, you know, we're not getting into the debate around Sam and that, but I think it was indicative to me of like, he is a kid, right? Like he needs more, he needs like game time at club level in these kinds of games where the pressure will be on him to run the game, not on other players to run the game. And he needs to, like, his review this week will be a lot about, yes, you won the game, you kicked your points, you got whatever 4 out of you missed one conversion, I think maybe, or whatever it was, but like kicked well enough, passed well enough, but like didn't run the game. And here's how you now start thinking about running this game. And that's where his development needs to go to I think rebuild his confidence as well on the pitch.
Definitely, especially next year when he won't have a Luke McGrath in front of him at 9.
Yes,
you know, he'll have to be that guy. And it's like he's finally getting development that I think I've always said he should have. Like, he doesn't need to be playing for Ireland. Let him just make his make his mistakes at club level, let him win games playing poorly, get confidence, build the layers, and which we can see up the road with Murphy, who's quietly become a very good 10 for Ulster, and that there's a blueprint to how to do it, especially I think for 10s, and unless you are quite literally the single best player of all time, no 20-year-old is really set up to go straight international rugby at that age. It's rare,
and I would say it's true in most sport, right? Like even in, like, if you look at the NFL with quarterbacks, right? It is a rare occurrence that you see a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, like rookie, or 22 or 3-year-old coming out of college, rookie quarterback being the best player on the pitch, driving the team to unbelievable lengths and stuff like that. You had a little bit this year with Drake May and stuff like that. But in general, it is their mid to late 20s. It's the 28-year-olds to like 32-year-olds. That is their like peak. That is when they are at the absolute prime of their powers, when they have 2 or 3 years at the highest level of their game, playing well, understanding their team, understanding their role in the team, a little bit more of a mature head on their shoulders, experience on their shoulders. That's normal, right? And I sincerely believe that's what will happen with Sam Prendergast, where in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, we'll have a little bit forgotten about it. There might be still a bit of chattering in the media or among people who are like, oh yeah, but he still can't tackle great, or whatever, because they remember that game in 2026 now, even though it's the 2031 World Cup. And like, they're like, oh yeah, but that one game against Toulon, where he fluffed that tackle. What if he does that against the All Blacks in the final? This kind of nonsense. So I think he will develop into that player in the same way we've seen Harry, right? Like, Harry is to your point in terms of the blueprint here of, like, Harry, for various reasons, I think hasn't had a good run. Like, Leinster have not had to develop a 10 for the guts of 20 years. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a little bit of a problem coaching at Leinster at the moment, right? Is like Johnny Sexton, like prior to Johnny Sexton, we had Felipe Contepomi, who was developed outside of Leinster. Johnny was, they also ran till he was about 24, 25. And then Felipe got injured and Johnny stepped up, and then just has been there. Even when he was gone, was there.
But he also had that bank of like 25 to 50 caps built up without the pressure of being the guy, and that's more it. And I think this was a type of game where I think Sam needed to make those mistakes, so those mistakes aren't uber criticized and uber analyzed, and it's winning a game at a bonus point where you've, as your 10 has made mistakes, is always good. You have guys like Mangan coming on and playing well, picking up player of the year. That intercept and turnover was key to getting Leinster over the line here. That was one of those lines pressure points, and he just that release valve, and then you had the kick downfield. Suddenly lines are back at the 22 again. It was those type of moments where guys were making big moments. Jimmy O'Brien was playing well. Like, enough players just played well, individuals, where the lack of accuracy and cohesion and familiarity wasn't as important. And the mixture of experienced and inexperienced players across the 23 worked, whereas you had an inexperienced 2 or 3 with experienced 1. Like in every unit there was inexperienced and inexperienced, and that got changed out with experience and experience in equal measure. So all kind of because as much as Leinster looked with a lack of cohesion, that stayed consistent across the 80. Like, if that makes it, there's no drop off. Leinster had a purple patch, like Lions had a purple patch even, but there's no drop off of performance because of subs or because of anything like that. I think that's the takeaway. I think for Leinster, like, yes, things happened and the subs came on, and when Keenan scores that try, when he comes out, the third try to put Leinster 2 scores up, that for me was when Lions was like, we've just attacked 25 minutes and they've scored.
We've got nothing from it. Like,
they've now gone 2 scores up.
We're further. And you could see the heads drop. Like, you could see them, like,
that was the deflating mark. And Leinster's defense is diametrically opposed to what Lions try to do. Leinster are a shut you down on phase 1 team, Lions are, I need to score within 3 phases, otherwise this ain't working team. And that is, that's where this came in. Anytime this went over into long phase counts, that favored Leinster. The one thing Lions did well, and I don't think enough teams have done against Leinster, is kick long and kick to the corners. It's they made Leinster kickbacks from awkward positions, and that's one of those things where smart kicking against Leinster isn't contestable. I think it's no kick to the tram lines as much as possible and into 22 and get that ball bouncing, make them have to play awkward ball and give you the ball back somewhere in their half. I think Lions did enough of that to show, especially against the less experienced Leinster team, that it's a viable outlet and a viable way for entries into the Leinster half. But that was very much your bog standard Leinster win 2 weeks before a final. It's that type of, we are in this. We need to get game time into all these players. No one apart from Will Connors, the only person who's leaving, gets injured. And you're kind of, anything else is, what else could Leinster really get from that game with the change they had? They get 5 points. They're now, depending on what goes on around them, they could get even top 2. Like, genuinely, they could get top 2 if people do them favors,
Yeah,
it's
like,
mad
that's what I
if
was
you
kind
think
of
about where
alluding to.
it's mad when you think 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, like, the sky was falling.
Yeah, and I think it just also shows you, right? Like, and I'm sure they'll be thinking about this internally. Like, if they'd have beaten Benetton as they were expected to do and gotten their 5 points, they would currently be top. They would be currently top of the table. They would be 3 points clear at the top of the table and would have it in their hand to just win next week and be guaranteed top position.
Yeah.
And like that's what you're talking about here, right? It's like you have to win those away games. Leinster have a terrible record away this season. Like, outside of Ireland, like outside of the island of Ireland, terrible record. And like that will be, I'm sure, in their mind about having to go away for a semi-final or a final. From that perspective. So, like, all they can do next week is win. They can get to 63 next week if they win with a bonus point. And then it's like Glasgow Stormers play each other next week, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Glasgow play Ulster. Cardiff have Stormers.
Sorry, Ulster, Glasgow next week. Sorry, and Cardiff Stormers. So 100% cheering for Cardiff and Ulster in those 2 games, obviously from a Leinster point of view.
Whereas I'm supporting Stormers next weekend. I'm 50-50 on Glasgow and Ulster. I need one of them to lose. I don't care who. Just one of them needs to lose.
Draw between Cardiff and the Stormers. Do you find?
Would it? Sorry, I don't have to do.
We'll have to look at the table.
Would it?
Yeah, I think
it would. It would. A draw. The draw will be fine.
There we go. Draw. That's what we're looking for. Stormers get 2
With
draws.
No bonus points.
Their time up here. No bonus points. Just 3-3. Not just terrible. Just a terrible game.
I'll take it.
But yeah, look, I think Leinster are in a better position now than they were 3 weeks ago. The sky is no longer falling. They're in a European Cup final. They're in top 3 with a good place to get top 2. I think third is probably still likely for them. Maybe second, right? I think there's a good chance Ulster beat Glasgow, or run close. Is it away though? Sorry, I say that now.
It's away. It's in Glasgow.
I rescind my previous point.
And they will have a European final the week after.
Fair point. But they're currently in 5th, right? So like a win there gives them a home quarter.
Ulster.
Sorry, Ulster are way down. Sorry, I'm looking at the table and I saw red and it was Lions. I apologize. They're in 8th. It's a little existential for Ulster as well. Yeah.
Ulster need to win. Like I don't, because it's really weird. Ulster need to win. It's just a lovely bottom of the table, and Glasgow
don't need to win.
But they do if they want to like.
If they want a top table and they want a home quarter or whatever, like yes, but they don't need to win again. Similar to Connacht Munster, they don't need to win in the way Ulster need to win.
True, and I understand that. Yeah. So, but will we move on to the Ulster Stormers match? But before we do that, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to this podcast, wherever you listen to it, make sure you do that. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button as well and leave a comment saying that we're amazing underneath, because YouTube loves all that type of stuff.
Yes.
But follow me over on social media. That is at the second row. That's 2ND, not the word second, on X still, don't know why, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I am pretty much everywhere. So hit that follow button and get in touch. It is you can literally frame what we're talking about going forward.
Yes, like Liam McAvoy, who reached out on, I believe, Facebook,
Instagram.
with a lovely Instagram. Sorry,
He's young.
He's young, fair, but not that young on Instagram. So not on TikTok. But thank you, Liam, for reaching out with a suggestion in terms of a kind of postseason wrap up, which we will definitely be doing, and we're talking about anyway. So if you would like to be like Liam, get in touch with us on whatever platform, as Pork just mentioned, and we will not only give you a shout out, but we will also talk about the thing you want us to talk about, because we are easy that way.
Yes. Let's get back to the rugby. And the Friday night was started off incredibly well in terms of mental rugby. Ulster 38, Stormers 38. Ulster looked hungry. They start fast. They get their try. You're thinking, all right, this is going to be a nice day for them. But I think that they forget that Stormers needed to win this. Like that whole thing of who needed points from here. Stormers needed points. And oh my God, Stormers might be the stupidest team in the world. I'm going to give my Stormers rant out of the way, and then we'll talk about Ulster, I promise. Stormers did not have a scrum on their own feet all game. So I wrote down, like I was watching too, Stormers are going to win penalties from the scrum, but they never had one on their own feet, because every knock on they played straight away. And if I saw my scrum having that much, ability on opposition ball, I'm like, I could milk penalties from this. They never once did it, never once. And then you have Evan Roos stupidly at the stroke of halftime just kind of go, I'm going to step through the Ulster defensive line here for no good damn reason and give away a penalty, and then catch someone who's catching a high ball and tackle him in the air. Like the most pointless penalties to give away either side of halftime. And he's a symptom of a bigger team idiocy. And I just think they would be genuinely unstoppable if they had a 10% smarts across the squad. It's unreal. Like, just genuinely unreal. Could not believe it. Like when I saw some of the stuff they were at. But especially the scrum, when Stormers are a scrummaging team, like they have a good scrum, and then to not use the opportunities, because there are lots of knock-ons, but they played everything. And you got to give credit to Ulster. They gave them the first 2 phases. Let's get out of this scrum advantage territory and then move the game on. But yeah, really good game. Great way to start a weekend. But I think both of us are ish annoyed about the result, weirdly.
Yeah, I mean, it's no argument with the Stormers commentary there, right? Like, it is a baffling thing to watch a little bit at times with those kind of things. I will take it from the other end of, we have talked several times about Ulster conceding a penalty in the dying moments of a game, and like in games that did not matter, and that this was eventually going to come back to bite them because they don't have the experience in their legs to keep a game, a tight game, won when they have it won against 14 men. And what did they do after scoring and taking the lead and getting their bonus point and all that kind of stuff on the 75th minute? Cough up a relatively easy try in the next couple of minutes. And like, as far
I was
as
actually going to ask you about Ulster, that. Do you think that is that kind of us? Have we predicted that? Or do you think that was very different in the fact that Stormers just found an extra gear because they needed something more? They needed something from this game, or is it the fact we've said it enough now and it's happened? We have been made right, because I thought about this afterwards, because we've both banged on about this, that there's going to be a point where Ulster are going to need to hold someone out and they don't. And apart from the legalities, they didn't technically hold out Stormers, but like it was the most like bog standard yellow card, penalty try, high tackle you've ever seen. Just is what it is. But yeah, it's weird because but given it was a penalty try, I don't think it's what we were talking about. But because it was a penalty try, it is, because that's the only way they could stop them was by being illegal. And then
I'm taking it.
Yeah,
personally, I like being right, and I'm going to take it that I was right.
No, completely. No, I'm not saying I felt it.
No, but I know your point. I know what your point. Like, this wasn't a grind on the 5-meter line where it was like, 7 phases, 10 phases of just like them battering the line, and you eventually hold out where they knock it on, or you hold them up over the line, or the whatever. That traditional, like, you just need to hold on in defense and like be strong in defense. But like my point here would be is like the 4 or 5 minutes in that build up, they don't shut the game down.
Yeah,
slow it down.
It was very easy for Stormers to just get there. Yeah.
They got into that position too easily, when what Ulster needs to be doing is like, first of all, on the restart, obviously it was going to get booted down the field and stuff like that, is like, booted right the hell back, like, get maybe a couple of phases, but fling that thing as far down the field as you possibly can, and then pelt your legs up. I know you're tired, but pelt your legs up and just make a nuisance of yourself. Just get in the way, slow the ball down, like, get tighter on it, just like make this hard ball. And then like, they need to fight. Like Stormers needed to chase, make it an unpalatable fight. Let them take their 2 losing bonus points. Be like, we're not going to risk like coughing up this ball and then us losing, like, only getting 1 losing bonus point rather than 2, right? You know what I mean? It's just, they didn't manage those last 2 or 3 minutes well. And the point that we've been making is, they've been doing that consistently in games where they're much clearer ahead, and it arguably didn't matter. But there is muscle memory for when you were in games like this that you need.
So what you're saying is, we were right. And
first of all, first more, we were right.
We were right.
Everything else is irrelevant.
we were right, and I get that. It's that well you go to when things are tough, and Ulster's well is quite shallow, and I think there's a mixture of, these is a young group to a degree. Definitely was the group that finished was a lot younger than when it started. And this is learnings for them for next season, and even possibly the season after. Like, I don't think this is something that I would wait to see them to hold out, because you're right, they were under pressure, and I think they went, we're against 14, we won't attack the breakdown, we'll spread out. And I'm like, you need to slow Stormers down. This is the worst thing you could do, is let Stormers have pace. And that's what happened. They it was all too easy. Their reading of the situation just felt wrong or off. Yeah. And especially when you consider the rest of the game, when Ulster were patient and deliberate and did things and imposed themselves on their terms, they could stop Stormers and they could create penalties off their own ball. And really, it was just really there felt like those times of defense where if Stormers got 1 or 2 punches in a hole, that was it. There was going to be either a big line break or a score coming. Happened in the first half. Like, don't get me wrong, also we're down to 14 for that period. But even here, they're almost, that idea of they're down to 14. What can they do? Yeah. And, well, it's the Stormers, lads. They can do a lot, and they're very good.
A very, very good team. They are second in the league.
When they're not stupid, they're very good.
Yeah. They're arguably the informed South African team as well. Like, they're a dangerous team. Like, you can't underestimate them in these situations. And look, I think again, like, some of this is the vertigo of the position that Ulster found themselves earlier in the season. Like, obviously they're not there in terms of the table at the moment, but just in terms of their performances and their play, right? There's more expected of them. They have a lot of their players have stood up and have brought them over the line, and I think that happened in this game as well, right? I think, excluding the high hit at the end, I thought Doak had a great game, and like, you could see the good player that he's become. Werner Koch and Augustus, amazing players for them again in this game.
Augustus got player of the match, didn't he? Like, he got
player of the match. He's really hit a heavy form, I think, in the last few weeks as well. Like, it's And like Werner Koch just seems to be enjoying himself. To be honest with you, out there.
I remember when Koch got signed, I was like, Jesus, do Ulster need a winger? You know, given everything they have, I was like, they don't need a winger. They needed that winger, if that makes sense. They like his personality just and his work rate is immense. And what summed up Doak for me was that tap and go under his own posts.
Yes,
just the insanity of it all. You know, it was genius. They win the penalty. The try comes from that. You know, the try comes from that moment of magic. And it's a tale of the two nines where his tap and go leads to a try, and Casey's tap and go leads to, you know, and it's a sign
down the full,
go down the full and all that, and it's a sign of two nines in very different spaces. If you're selecting an Irish 23 tomorrow, I know which one is in the 21 jersey, and in Ireland at the moment, like Doak is the leading nine for that 21 jersey, in my opinion.
I would agree. Yeah.
And his performances are really good. He controls that team. He takes a lot of weight off Murphy. Like extra couple of years of experience he has playing first team rugby has really helped. And what I found is when Murphy went off with the HIA, you really felt the difference that Flannery doesn't get game time. You know, he doesn't. They're all in on Murphy at 10. And like for me, I don't like, given how Murphy went down, I don't think he should have come back on personally. Like that felt
it was heavy. Yeah, it was a nasty fall. Yeah, heavy hit. Like and
even McElroy's one later on, like these. I wasn't comfortable seeing them both come back on, to be honest. But even the drop off from to Flannery is quite huge. It's quite big. And there tends to be a drop off in your 210s, you know. But the game time hasn't been good enough for Ulster's substitute 10s to kind of be able to be more comfortable in those situations. And even when he comes on for a second time, it's one of those things where we're talking about the experience to hold on and grit out a game. Well, you don't have a 10 who can close out a game because they're not playing enough games to close them out, because Murphy's tends to play 80 more often than not. So
it's a similar thing to Sam, right? Like when we talk about it in that sense of like, you need that kind of 40-50 caps under your belt of like decent experience to be able to come on in these high pressure, tight games where there's like a lot on the line and a lot of like mental, not pressure, but like focus needed, right? And like just that kind of game time intelligence like needed to really close out a game. And it was a bit, it was lacking there. No fault of the player himself. I think it's just he's inexperienced in that role at that time in a game.
Yeah. Whereas you kind of look at Sasha Feinberg Gazulu, who I could just watch him play rugby all day, every day. He's
what a player.
He just creates stuff from nothing all the time.
I am very worried about what we're going to see from him in South Africa in the next couple of years.
And he's just so good. And the thing is, like at 24, he's only going to get better. Right? And that's the scary thing. If he gets good coaching around him, the player he's going to turn out to be is unreal, like genuinely unreal. He is still he's very loose, but if he tightens up a small bit, just like he's going to turn into I think a very complete player.
And again, a relatively young player at the moment, right? So he has got that looseness, I think, of
player
of
24
of a 24 at his stage of his career, and in a game like this, like he cut loose. But I just think like in the South African national squad setup and stuff like that, he's one of your X factor players, right? Like coming through now, he's that kind of kid in that squad where you're like, oh, he's going to do horrible things to us in and other countries, like, you know, he's a real talent. Like did he score 2 tries or 3 tries? I can't remember. Like he's just fantastic to watch. Like just absolutely fantastic to watch.
He scored 2 tries. He has an eye for a gap, but he can move his backline around really well. It's like he does both very, very, very well. If he gets his kicking game up, like, I mean, the tactical kicking game up at about 10-15% better, like you've got the prototype of what South Africa want to do, of a good defensive guy, but someone who can play flair rugby and take it on and kind of do it all. If he just takes that next step, he's going to be someone we're going to be talking about for a long time. He's going to be like genuinely top class. And it's I love like the South Africans have made such a huge thing on the DRC where you're talking about these guys going, oh yes, but it also means that every Irish team has to up their performances tenfold. And like Ulster played a really good game here. You know, it was 38-38, but it was a real entertaining game.
Extremely close game. Like, you know, this is like proper Friday Night Light stuff of a game, right? Like it had lots of drama in it. The two teams were like desperate for the win. They were taking some great chances with heavy hits in it.
The physicality
like back and forth
all weekend was huge.
It was massive. Yeah. And again, like we've talked about it in terms of like this is probably the best season of the URC since it started, right? In terms of the competitiveness and like where we are at this stage, the fact that it's so close and there's so many permutations in the table. Again, there's only 5 points between 4th and 9th in the table right now as we go into the final weekend. So there is unbelievable amounts of things to play for across the whole table in terms of position for quarterfinal play, you know, like home quarterfinals, home semifinals, just straight up qualifying. Like it is like you could feel it this weekend in terms of the intensity of a lot of these games that often in years gone by, the last 2 weeks are phoned in for a lot of teams because they're like, nah, you know, like the season's over. We're getting ready for the summer. We're getting ready for off season. So we're going to send out the kids, let them get some game time, and we'd like to win, but it's not critical. Like that's definitely not the case this season. It's been fab. And this game, I think, emblematic of it. Like just proper like it's proper heavy collisions, but like proper chances taken as well. Like these teams were going for the 5 points. They weren't happy with just getting the win and stuff like that, and like just kicking for points. It was real. Like we talk often, you hear about like, you know, cup rugby or playoff rugby, taking your points and all that kind of stuff. This was a perfect example of league rugby where it's like, no, we need to run up this scoreboard. Need tries. Like this is not good enough. There's points. 6 minutes left in this game. Need points. Need to go on the attack. Cannot just settle for the 2. Need to get the 3 or the 4. You know,
points difference. Everything's coming into play here. It was. Oh no, it was a great game to watch. I felt so weird at the draw. I was like, I guess that's good for us, but it's not, like Stormers could have won. And like Stormers knocked the ball out. I think you'd always swear Stormers got the ball at that, like from that kickoff. You're like, they could have gone up and got another try. Like, oh, that would be okay, but it was. But they're like, oh, the Irish team would have lost, but like I would have been happier. But
yes, the complications of my team needs to do well, but I would also like all teams to, like in Ireland, to do well. Yes.
You know, there was such vibes about that at times on Friday, like, oh yay, Stormers, oh Ulster, oh yeah, but you know, very mixed emotions.
If they lost, it wouldn't be terrible. You know, it's the usual thing of like, I'm not cheering against them, I am cheering to a certain degree for them. If they lose, it won't ruin my weekend.
No, not at all. And but no, I really enjoyed the game. I think Izuchuku had a really good game. Timoney stood out as well. Once again, I think there was an incredible turnover at 32 minutes. That was like so important. Like it felt important in the context of the game of where it was at that moment. And you've mentioned Augustus and Cock. Yeah, Ulster have a difficult couple of weeks ahead in what they're trying to do. And I think we're going to see decisions made on what they want out of their season next week in their team selection and what they think is going to happen in other places. But no, it's really weird place to be in for them. I think the next couple of weeks, but that game was incredible. And if that wraps up the URC at the men's rugby anyway for the weekend, and what bugged me about this weekend, I think it is the fact that the URC has an Irish stakeholder, and they're like, yes, let's have Irish teams play at the same time as the Irish women. You know, it's like, what are you doing? But why we, you know, it just it really wrecked my head. And when you see Ireland look so comfortable for periods of time against Wales, it really annoyed me that the whole like this deserved not to compete. Like the people that are going to watch women's rugby are going to watch it no matter what. But like I want to watch all the rugby, you know?
Yeah.
And that's my problem, you know? Like I want to be able to watch the Leinster match, the Connacht match, and the Ireland game. The Ireland games like crossed over with two halves of both of those games. You know, it just the RFU need to like get out of rugby's way as well. But you know, if that was the first game of the day in an Irish context, that's really, really useful, you know?
Yeah.
But that's a personal problem. If you were from Wales, you loved that kickoff time because there was no teams competing with it. Or actually was there. I don't was there. They could have been, but I don't think there was. But that
Dragons?
was kind of yeah, they don't count. And I'm
like a WRU member if ever I heard one.
Exactly. No, but but even for the Dragons, you know, supporters who want to watch sport women's rugby as well. You know, it just is bad timing. And how dare you stop people watching Aoife Wafers? Like, how dare you?
I mean, that's a crime in and of itself, right? Like that's surely there's a law against that. Like, you know, in terms of Irish exceptionalism and representation. What a woman. What a player.
Aoife Wafers is the best 8 in Ireland right now.
Just
it has to be.
Unbelievable.
Like, has to be. I love that offload for the Parsons try. It's just off a scrum going, I'm just going to run over you. But at the same time, out the back door offload to that very fast winger who isn't even on screen. I was going to put the ball up in the air. And that's my favorite type of offload. It's like, this isn't to anyone. That is an offload of someone who expects quality from the people around her. And it goes like, I'm going to put this ball in the air. You're matching my methods and you're catching up, you know, and that's what that offload was. I loved it so much, but she is so good. Ireland switched off big time after this first try. Did it kind of feel to you watching? It was like, we scored this first try and we're just going to win this game now. And they just eased off the throttle a small bit.
Yeah, I think so. They let Wales into the game a little bit. Now, Wales did what I think we've seen Welsh teams do a lot, which is they dragged Ireland into a fight as well, right? Like they dragged it down to their level in places quite effectively. But Ireland let them would be my view on that as well. Yeah, I think there was again that sense of like, okay, we've got our score, we'll just kick on from here. And then probably looked up at the clock after and was like, we haven't scored in a while. Why? We probably need to focus up a little bit and like, go a bit harder at this. But like I think it was more of a fight from Wales than I was certainly expecting, to be honest with you. And I think possibly that the Ireland team was expecting. But
I think
Ireland were clearly the better team. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was again, because Ireland dropped off the pace a little bit rather than Wales were competing at that same level.
Yeah, I don't. If Ireland played at that France level, this wasn't going to be the game as tight as it was for me. But there are things in what Ireland did which I really liked. It's not letting the half end without a score. As much as it freaked me out a small bit when they gave the ball to Wales, who also weren't wanting to let the half end without the score because they needed a score at that stage, you know. Whereas Ireland didn't need the try as much, but like, no. Given the half we've had, we cannot go into this only one score up. You know, they worked really hard to get to that 2 scores up position, and it was important that they did. And the same at full time, just going, no, we could kick this ball off the pitch, clock's in the red, we're getting more points. You know, I think that's an important step for them to take in terms of mentality. I think that's what this game needed. And it had pretty much everything else between like yellow cards and good tries, but from an Irish point of view, being able to like run that game out, like they had 63% possession. You know, like they dominated the stats in pretty much every way.
500 meters gained versus like 320 meters gained. You know, like
Nine.
Wales had to make like 20, double the tackles like Wales had to make and stuff like that, or like Wales had to make double the tackles Ireland had to make, that kind of thing.
It's that side of it, you kind of going, everything Wales got felt from Irish softness more than anything else, including the kind of like the yellow card for that weird kick out, which you see in every game every week. Like, I get why when it's attention brought to it, it's given as a yellow, but can we bring attention to it every week when someone kicks out like that? Like, it's just frustrating when you see things go from one game to the next not called. I think it was actually more of a kick than that kind of shrug that mostly happens when your leg's caught like that. But I don't know, what can you do? And like, it didn't impact the game, I think, at the result, and that's the main thing. But it's just
it didn't influence the completion of the game or anything like that.
No.
But I think, look, we talked about it last week in terms of Ireland needed, like, what we wanted out of Ireland was for them to show the separation between them and Scotland, Italy and Wales, right? That show that they were firmly in third and could be in second on a given day, and I think they did that, right? Even if they did have a kind of slow patch in the middle of it, Aoife Wafers, Brittany Hogan as well, like the try scorers in general, like Bevan Parsons, Aoife Wafers, Brittany Hogan, showed, I think, the class that Ireland has and the cut above the likes of Wales at the moment, in that kind of performance, right? That Ireland could have scored another 2 or 3 tries in this game and it wouldn't have surprised me, particularly if they hadn't switched off. They could have ran up a much bigger score in this game, right? They were dominant, and we saw again, just to come back to like the performance of Aoife Wafers in this game is one of the best performances you will see on a rugby pitch this year and in most years. Like, just out of this world, the best player on the pitch, and evidently so. And like, drove the team forward in that fashion, right? We talked about it in the men's game about like leading a team and driving a team. She has stepped into that position so thoroughly now in this Ireland team.
She's a leader through action. And that's it. Like, Erin King captains the team so well, and she leads by action, and clearly there's something about her. There's clearly something that they're seeing to make her captain and everything. But that's why you have different types of leaders across the pitch. It's something that I try and put across. Like, but they're the captain. I don't care if they're the captain. Run the ball harder. Like, who would you follow into a fight? The captain or that person? That person. What are they doing? They're running really hard. Follow them. It's that type of thing. And Aoife Wafers, that type of person, is like, Erin King's telling me has helped my breathing and making me focus and everything like that. I'm like, okay, but Aoife Wafers just skittled someone. Let's go. It's that. And you need both types of leadership. And it's what I want to see from Ireland on the pitch. I know we want the wins, we want that separation. I think we need to start seeing more from the backline in general, like some more backline play. Wales's top 5 tacklers were all forwards. You're talking like Georgia Evans, like 27, 22, 21, 15, 15 tackles, all from the back row and second rows, that's how much you're bringing into contact through your forward pack, and how much your pack is good. You're going through the guts of a team, and I would like to see a small bit more of getting our very good backline onto the ball, and trying to create space with deception and running lines as on top of punching those holes for people to then it feels very earning the right to go wide without ever without pulling the trigger, and if that makes sense. I think just let's get them into the game more, and I do think we'd see that next evolution of what this team's trying to do. So that is the women's match. We're both sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sets up a great game for next weekend in Dublin.
We're both good.
Not a huge crowd at this game. In the end, there's about 5,000 at it. So I think 25,000 in Dublin next week.
Currently 25,000.
Yeah.
I think if there's a wave of tickets, they'll have to open up the upper decks. You know, if
Yeah.
there'll be a point where they'll have to make a decision on the upper tiers, which would be
Yeah.
great to see. Even if they kind of go, we can open up one patch, and you go, all right, we've sold out a block there. It'd be great
Yeah.
to see that evolution of where this team could be. And the green, I love how they stuck to this green wave in terms of how they talk about the games and how they talk about what they're doing. And it's something I find mental, and it will go away eventually, that the players are responsible for promoting their own game. And you
Yeah.
know, like an interview pre-Six Nations, Cam Doris is kind of going, oh yeah, it's a great, we're looking forward to Six Nations, done, Aaron King, pre-Six Nations, looking forward to Six Nations, and we hope there's a great crowd and fill out the Aviva, and she's like, I've got to promote, and there's an extra layer to everything they do. Like the mental taxation of having to like be a female sports in female sports is monumental.
I think any women in our life would tell us to be a woman.
Yes.
The mental taxation is relatively high.
Let's go for context. We're on a rugby podcast. Yeah.
Just wanted to answer the screams currently happening on from our female listenership.
Yes. All right. Obviously, I meant in general. But thank you for getting me in trouble.
You're welcome. But no, you're completely right. I think in terms of like, it is that evidence of like, Caelan Doris does not need to worry about Six Nations being sold out, because it will sell out for various reasons, and people will argue about if it's the right kind of sellout, but it will sell out. It's rare enough these days that the Aviva is not sold out for a Six Nations game from that point of view. So he has no need to do it. Like you rarely hear, like you don't hear him talking about trying to sell out the Aviva for
even for
like
the Leinster matches.
Yeah, like I was going to say for the semi-final or the quarterfinal, which is a bit surprising in that sense, right? That you would think like Leo Cullen will often come out and make those points and try push that angle, but it is a little bit strange that the captain is also not doing that or not pushing that point.
Whereas every single women's player, Irish, English, Scottish, Welsh, Italian, French, is effectively kind of going, I'm doing this today. Oh, by the way, international rugby. Oh, by the way, it's like everything comes back to come watch us,
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw it. It brings did you see the weird quote from the Bristol CEO the other day about when you're looking to bring in a player, you kind of always got to bring in their marketability.
I did see. So I saw something about. I saw more something about we're not a rugby club, we're a marketing club that plays rugby or something. That kind of point.
That type of point. And it's really weird where I read that and goes, Jesus, what an idiot. But at the same time, that's every women's rugby player. They're all self-marketing because they realize they are the reason people go to watch matches as much as the country. It's that buy into the person and their personality as much as we are representing Ireland or England or France or whatever,
I think it's an interesting one. Like a good example of this to call up kind of other sports, right? And women's sports in particular here is like, it's the WNBA, right? Like the WNBA is on a complete and utter, like for those who don't follow basketball and stuff like that, right? There's most people at the moment would argue, and certainly in the last couple of years, that like the WNBA is a much better product than the NBA. To watch, right? Like the games are better, the standards are better, there's more competition, there's more fight in it, all these kind of things, right? And that's not to say that like the men's game is a bad game, but it's just games. It's a different game. It's very similar to women's soccer and stuff like that at the moment, right? They're in different stages of their careers, of the life cycle and the maturity of the sport and stuff like that. And the WNBA, similar to women's soccer, is in that kind of what I would say is akin to the 80s and early 90s of men's soccer, where the money was coming in, but it wasn't there yet, and it didn't feel yet it had corrupted the players, right? Yes. It's not like millionaires playing against each other, right? And a bit more graft to it, still a bit more like of the people. And women's rugby is in a similar position, right? Men's rugby, like, and don't feel that separate to people because the money isn't there in men's rugby as the way as in soccer or in something like NBA or whatever. But I think increasingly at an international level, the community element of men's rugby is starting to disappear, and it is becoming more like these traditional professional sports. Whereas women's rugby is still such a community-based
Yes.
grassroots sport. And that is what you are seeing is these women are promoting an international level game like it's the Sunday league game. Like it's the final of their thing. And that is not to denigrate like women's sport is like a Sunday league sport. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they are so intrinsically invested in this as a community that they cannot help themselves, I would even argue, in promoting the game in a way that a Caelan Doris, not to single him out as an individual, but as men, professional men at that level of sport, do not feel that same level of responsibility to their community because they are in a much more professionalized, highly structured, more people looking after them. That little bit separate from that grassroots element. That would be my interpretation of why the difference is there.
And you have that freedom of personality as well, of them just being able to be themselves at all times.
They're not as media trained and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I think it's always I'm a big fan of women's rugby. I coach women's rugby. I've done it for many years, or girls rugby anyway. And it's all about, and the big thing is it's changing the look of what they want to do. And in a couple of years' time, there'll be professional provinces, and we'll be doing this, and we'll be talking about the Connacht men's match and the Connacht women's match, and and we'll literally have 8 games of rugby to watch a weekend, and I will start pick or choosing, and hopefully, who knows what this will be when that happens in 2029 onwards. That's because what people need to remember is Connacht let the cat out of the bag in their 5-year plan 2 years ago that provincial rugby will be pro in 2029. And
we saw the RFU. We left it out of the news earlier on, but we did see the RFU this week kind of like let the cat out of the bag. Or
we're not saying no to joining we're not saying no to joining
doing a bit of kite flying, possibly to put some pressure on the URC or whatever around this. If some of the other clubs are getting a bit kind of cold feet about it, to be like, well, we'll just go over here and take all our money as well and go over to the Premiership and stuff like that. So it's coming. Like it's like professional rugby at a club level is coming to Ireland soon, which will be amazing. But yeah, I think maybe to bring it back home, right, to the point here of the. Like we are at a point, I think it's a great point to get involved in women's rugby, I suppose, is the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're seeing incredible talent on the pitch, right? So just absolute like fantastic performances and like really on like that crest of a wave, right? Like Irish rugby in particular, this does feel like a sea change year from where they were a couple of years ago. Now, that does not mean that mistakes from the past will not be made again, and there could be criminal underinvestment, but there is real potential here for this group of players and for where Irish rugby, for women's rugby, is going in Ireland at the moment.
And in terms of like ability and what you're seeing on the pitch, for the gains the women's game will make will be astronomical, because you will see an improvement of 5% is more than will be huge because of just the levels of where they're coming from and their skill level. I prefer the women's game at international level to a degree. It's everyone who doesn't like kick heavy rugby, watch the women's game. Like it's the game. Anyone who's ever complained there's too much kicking, watch the women's game. Like it's just played in the way you think rugby should be played, and that's not to say it shouldn't be played the way it is. It's lovely to see everyone attacks from pretty much everywhere. There's enough structure there that nothing feels wild, but at the same time, it's coming. All those structures and systems and plays are coming, and get it now. Watch the good stuff now before it's that freedom is coached. Not that it's coached out of them, but that freedom becomes too costly when teams get closer and closer together in ability. That's all.
Be a cool kid. Watch it before it's cool.
Yes. So next week in the URC, 3 matches on the Friday night. Connacht away to Edinburgh, Ulster away to Glasgow, and Cardiff host Stormers. All 3 kicking off at the same time. 3 teams there looking to secure top 8. 2 of those teams looking to secure top 2. This league is insane. Insane, I tell you. I can see Connacht winning, and I cannot I think the Stormers will win. I think Cardiff. This will be another game too far for Cardiff. Please, for Connacht's sake, let one of Glasgow Stormers win, and after that, I don't care. I can go to bed a happy man that night. But
yeah, I think for me, like if I was, and like right from a Leinster point of view, obviously Stormers losing, Glasgow losing would be in my interest, right? But I think
if I'm to do a podcast again this year, Connacht, one of those two teams need to lose.
Yeah, fair. And I think in that scenario, I would go with I'd probably go with the Stormers because I would like to see Ulster win and make sure they also make top 8.
Yes.
So like Ulster win and Stormers win would be fine with me in that scenario. Yeah.
It'd be very rare to see 3 away wins in one night in the URC.
It would be almost unheard. Like it would be basically unheard of. Like yeah.
So Leinster have Ospreys at home and they'll know what they have to do at that point. That's actually quite interesting. They'll know what they'll need from that match at that point. I expect them to win at home, to be honest. But they will.
I think so. Yeah,
they will. Then Munster Lions is the last game on Saturday. Both teams knowing exactly what they'll need out of that game for whatever reason. Even if it's for Munster, it could be staying in if Connacht, Ulster, and Cardiff all win.
Yeah, Munster will need to
win. And that's immense. And at that point,
depending on the manner. Yeah, and depending on the manner, like if Cardiff, Ulster, and Connacht all win with a bonus point, Munster will need to win with a bonus point to guarantee.
Yes.
Because otherwise they'll end up on the same points as Munster.
But also
2 points or Connacht, right? Yeah.
If Connacht, Ulster, and Cardiff all win, they'll end up on, say, with Connacht win with, we'll go idealistic. Connacht win with a bonus point, Ulster and Cardiff both just win. All those 3 are on 54. Yeah. Munster now on 51. Lions are on 53. So Munster now in 9th going into this game. Lions know if they lose, Lions know they need to win at that point, just in case Ulster win the Challenge Cup.
Week. Yeah.
And it's mental how. Could you imagine if all 4 games were on at the same time? I don't think anyone would live. It would not be worth the harsh medicine that would be needed for that game. But the fact that they're in the last game of the season, there's so much that can happen in the league table is phenomenal. Love this league, hate this league, all at the same time.
Yeah, it's great, right? Like again, I don't think there's ever been so much to play for on the final weekend
across the top half of the table,
but across the whole table, right? Like in the same vein as we're talking about it there, right? You also have Glasgow, Stormers, Leinster, and Bulls fighting it out for position in the top 4, right? And Bulls maybe is like a throw in there, but certainly Leinster, Stormers, Glasgow are all fighting for top 2 to like guarantee a home semi-final, right? Like that's what they're aiming for here, because we all know home games are how you win. Like you do not, like the ability to win away is very, very difficult. Like it's I know it's happened in the URC a few times with away wins in finals, but it's rare.
Not everyone can win in South Africa. It's a hard thing to do. It's
across the table. Like it's like the only team that's kind of sitting safe at the moment is Bulls, where they're like, we're in 4th. We're not likely to not be in 4th when this is all done. We're not going to make, unless like Glasgow, Stormers, Leinster all lose and Bulls win, they're not making like top 3, top 2, and like they can't top the table. They could potentially make 2nd. They could potentially make 3rd. You know what I mean? They're not going to drop out of the table.
They're home to Benetton. They're going to win. Like it's just going to happen. I'm not really worried from that point of view. It's just about how much, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. They're in the safest position in terms of the games of the weekend. It's like, right, well, we'll get 4, should get 5. That might get us up into 3rd if Leinster don't win, but it'll probably mean we stay in 4th, and that's kind of where it'll land. I
think the most dangerous position is to land on is 8th. You just don't. I wouldn't want to finish 8th in the European rugby sense. And
Yes.
I've just. What happens if you come 8th but win the URC?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't, as far as I'm aware, because it also like the league position is what matters for next season. So like that, if Leinster
I thought the URC
fourth,
win. No, the URC winner gets number 1.
I'm not sure if they do.
I thought that's what happened, but
maybe
I'm wrong.
Maybe, yeah.
I could be wrong.
Listeners, if you know, text or like message into the whatever thing you're listening to us on. If not, we will answer the question next week definitively when we look at the end of the season.
But they just change it so often, you know, and I can't remember now. Like first Glasgow, I'm just trying to think of the draw, you know, more so than anything else.
I think the draw is based on 1 to 8. I don't think it's based on the. I think it's taken on the league. I don't think it's taken on the.
Maybe
on the
that's true. It just would be a real shitty thing to happen of winning the league and not getting to Europe.
Yeah.
And then 7th becomes, if that was the case, then 7th becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that is a foibe of the URC, which I'd love to see just happen once, just not the Connacht. Finish 7th. The guy below you will URC.
It would be an interesting situation for Munster's season if they ended up in 8th, somehow managed to pull it all together, won the URC, and then didn't make Champions Cup rugby next year with all of that. That would feel like a very Munster thing to happen to them at this point.
And here's the thing, is that saying something that would have felt very Connacht a couple of years ago. You know, and like it's that point of when you are circling the drain, as you know, that as it can happen, that you just things can go against you. Things can go against you.
Yeah, it's that Murphy's law of it, right? Like if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Just, you know, as things start to go wrong, they continue in that fashion. It seems to be the case, and hopefully for Connacht, it will be the other thing. Things are going right, so let's hope they continue in that fashion. We have a very busy next weekend in terms of rugby. We also have obviously the women's game in the Aviva, 25,000 currently. Hopefully that number will go up against Scotland. Another opportunity to push on, show a bit of class in front of a big home crowd in Dublin as well. And we will know at that stage all of the permutations that are playing out in the URC and what it means in terms of knockout play positions and stuff like that. So until next week, we will, I'll let you close it out. You're better at closing it than I am.
So thank you all for listening. We will be back next week. Remember, if you want to get involved or want to repeat anything, do get in touch. So until next week, when we will know the URC top 8, until next week when we know the final of the Women's Six Nations, thank you all for listening.
Bye-bye.